So in today's video, I'm going to demonstrate how I might start a nature journal page. And we're going to focus on these oak trees. And these are growing in the neighborhood here in Oregon. They're not native to this part of Oregon, but they are very beautiful and provide a lot of shade and a lot of food for the wildlife, like the deer and the squirrels. So I'm just going to kind of go about how I might do a page so that I might inspire you to do one as well. So I'm going to move these here. So basically what we have is we've got a stem and we've got a couple of acorns. Generally these are in 2s or 3s. And then we have some leaves. And there are a few older leaves still around from last fall in the neighborhood. And it's surprising how quickly that they will be falling off and going brown again because the year just keeps going by so fast. So anyway, so I'm going to follow a little bit of a formula here. And I'm going to use my nature journal page recipe. So this journal page recipe is what I'm going to be using as a template. So I'm just going to start in pencil, but generally this will smear out in the field if you leave it like this. So I'll be adding some other tools here, some pen and pencils maybe, and so we'll just see how that goes. I also have something to look more closely at my objects with. This little magnifying glass. It was actually my grandfather's. And I have a little bit of a measuring tape. I do have more of a field version somewhere in my supplies. And I have this handy dandy kneadable eraser. And so what I do with that, let me show you, is I will just kind of warm this up, and this has lots of uses. Of course, one use is to erase, but another use I really like it for is for holding things in place when I'm drawing them, especially things that are round or slippery or that might easily move, because I don't want it to change positions. So I'm going to be using that to place this right here for myself to draw. And my drawing is going to look a little bit different maybe than what you see, because you're going to be seeing this from the top and I'm looking at it more at a 3/4 view. And I really do like to draw things at a 3/4 view where you see a little bit of the top and a little bit of the side, and that gives you the most information in just one sketch. Alrighty. So anyway, we're going to get started, and I'm going to add my metadata. So it is September, what day is it already? September 7th. And it's sunny outside, although that's kind of irrelevant. This tree is going to be blooming, fruiting that is, for a while, regardless of the weather. And so we are in Central Oregon. Now, my handwriting isn't as nice as some nature journalers, but, you know, we're not really trying for perfection or beauty. We're really trying to sketch what we see to learn more about them, more about the anatomy and behavior and the color and shape and textures and patterns and all of those things. And so no matter what you have on the page at the end, you'll just have learned a lot, especially about these acorns, once you're done. Now, so I usually kind of put my initials down here at the bottom too. And again, we're going to go over all of this in ink later on, but this is kind of what I would do, you know, if I was in the field. Now, of course, I'm not in the field right now because it's a lot easier to film this for you indoors. So anyway, then I might put a title, and so, you know, we are looking at oaks and their acorns. And so, you know, that could be kind of fun. You know, some people really spend a lot of time, you know, making a fun title, and I don't generally spend as much time on that. But, you know, feel free to, you know, make your drawing as fun as you want. And so I'm just gonna do this kind of quickly, but again, you could do it more fancy if you want. Okay, so I'm gonna first draw this acorn. Again, I'm gonna draw it 3/4 view. What we see is kind of fun is this acorn is on a stem here, and it's got a little baby acorn next to it that for some reason didn't mature. Maybe it didn't get pollinated. Oaks are generally insect pollinated. So I'm gonna do a little drawing of that, and then I'll draw it life size, and then I like to generally measure things and note how big they are. But it's easier to draw something a little bit larger too to show the details. But this is about, what would we say? It's about 35 millimeters or about 1.5 inches. And so it is nice to put those details in there, some numbers. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna move this over. Where can I put this so you can see it? You may or may not be following along with me, but let's just put it here. Okay, and so, yeah, I am, you know, going to draw this basically life size right now, and I'm just going to kind of go quickly. I'm not trying to make, you know, a botanical illustration. I'm just kind of pretending I'm out in the field, and who knows, it might be a little bit difficult out in the field. It might be too hot like it is today. It's about 90 degrees outside today. Or there might be a lot of mosquitoes or something. So it's good to learn how to just sketch very lightly and quickly. And I am drawing a little bit darker probably than I would recommend you draw, because I don't want you to feel like you have to erase your lines. And so yeah, that's life size. And again, I might note that. And so that is, what do we say, 35 millimeters, or about 1.5 inches. So there, that's life size. Now, again, we can't see that very well, and can't get many details in there. So let's do a larger version over here. And so then we can really look at some more of the details, especially the details are very interesting here of the cap. And I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see a little bit better. The cap has these interesting scales on it. And these are kind of unique to each species of oak. And the shape of this nut actually, the shape and length of it actually varies as well with the different species of oaks. There's about 400 species. Oops, and we can talk about that later. So anyway, I'm going to do a bigger version of just the one oak here, the one acorn. And that is a name, a terminology, acorn, for the fruits or the nuts specifically of oaks. So now let's make this bigger. Decided we want to really make this big so we can see it. And I always suggest you look at a few of these before drawing. Now you notice I'm not erasing, I'm just kind of fixing my lines, but I suggest you look at a few before you start drawing. So then you'll know kind of the general shape and know what you should get kind of anatomically close and what doesn't matter so much. because plants are a lot more variable than animals, and so they can be a lot more different shapes and sizes and colors and still work well. Okay, and so here, I might do some labels. So we've got our stem, and we've got our cap, or also called a cupule. And then we actually have the nut. And then at the very end, this little structure here was the stigma. That is the part of the female flower that receives the pollen. Because, of course, a nut can't be created, or any kind of seed can't be created unless there was pollen that unites with the what do you call it, the ovule, I forgot the name of it, to become a mature seed that can then, make a new plant. And so then I might just lighten up these lines a little bit here. And I want to show the scales. So, like I mentioned, if you look really closely, there are little scales, and oops, he's rolling away here, so that doesn't always work perfectly. And so these are unique, and here's another version. I could actually draw a top view if I wanted to. And you can see that these scales are kind of, well, you might not be able to see, but they sort of overlap like shingles. And so they're smallest at the top, and then they get larger going down here. And I might just do, the first ones here, showing them pretty big, because when you're looking straight at something, it's going to be biggest, like that. And then as the scales wrap around the edges, they're going to foreshorten and look like they're getting smaller. So to make this, look more realistic, these are going to get kind of smaller. Now, if I wanted to look up close here and get a lot more details, I could, but we're not going to do that now. This is just kind of for demonstration, and hopefully you can find your own acorn to draw, or really anything. Today's demo is just to help you think about anything you could draw and journal about. Okay, and so yeah, like I said, they appear biggest right in front of you, and then they get smaller as they wrap around the edge. So yeah, not going to do too perfect there. Okay, there we go. Alrighty, so that was fun. Now, of course, it's the these will split open when they're mature, and they will become a new tree. Okay, and so here's another version that's kind of fun that I could look at, just showing how they often come in 2s or 3s. And, we could actually collect some data about that, but let's draw one first. So, I'm just going to draw the stem, and I have to get this out of the way here so I can draw this. Okay, and again, these are going to look a little bit different to you than they do to me. And so our stem, we see there's, these little areas here where other acorns or other leaves were attached. And sometimes I just kind of go along and don't try to be really perfect. Kind of going like that. And then we have the 2, so that's kind of fun. So It's nice to draw something from different angles. So showing something from the top and from the side, and that's going to give you a lot more information about the anatomy of that structure. And this other one is actually touching it, you'll notice. Seems like they're close friends. And something to that effect. And so, and then again, you know, I could always draw it from a different angle. So if I want to draw, you know, a little close-up of the top here, just showing the stigma. Kind of like that. I could point to it. And, well, this is actually the bottom view, isn't it? And I could also do a top view if I wanted to. And we could take one of these. Again, it's easier to kind of squish something down here and look at the top view. Again, you don't have to be perfect. But this is a cool view where, again, if you wanted to look at those overlapping scales, you could. And I might get this a little bit better here. So you see, I'm not being too overly concerned, but I am trying to continuously go back and forth and look at my subject up close. So I'm really drawing from observation and not from memory or imagination. And like I said, I noticed that these get a little bit bigger. And again, I could be doing a lot more careful job of this, but this is just, again, a demo. I don't want to spend all day here. I want you to go get your own acorn or other kind of nut or subject matter. But it is fun to just notice how things overlap and how they get a bit bigger on the edges. So this would be a top view. There we go. Okay. So it wouldn't be complete if we didn't add some leaves. Now, a lot of these leaves are pretty big. They're too big for my page. And so I'm just going to do a smaller leaf. And I actually have a brown one that was left over in the yard from last year. That might be fun to look at. And if I add color, I can do that too. Add some color. So that'll be fun. So let's just do this green one first. And first, again, you want to observe something before you start drawing it. The longer you observe something, the better you'll do, and actually you'll be more quicker and more accurate in your drawings. So looking at the stem of the leaf and how that continues into some veins, and maybe noticing how a lot of these major veins end up at one of these tips. And all oak trees, I believe, have these lobed leaves, at least the ones in this genus, the Quercus genus. And I could add that here. It's the most largest genus. And we don't know what species this is, so I'm just going to put spa. So anyway, and some oaks have these pointy kind of bristles that hurt a little bit if you touch them, and some are more just lobed without those. So again, I might just set this over here, and I'm going to try to draw this one life size. You know, and it wouldn't be cheating. It wouldn't be cheating if you just went like this. Let's just do that for fun, because I want you to know that, you know, again, we're not trying to be really artists here. We're trying to observe from the natural world. And so I could just give myself this little template, and there we have it. So I could just get some more details here. So that saves me a lot of time. And again, like I said, it's not cheating. The whole idea is to spend time observing something and not getting lost in the weeds too much. So there's a little point and a point and then a little point. And it really helps to verbalize what you're seeing. It will help you to draw it more accurately as well. Like point, 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 point. Isn't that fun? Because that's easy. And then we'll do this other one, and we have a little point and a point and a point and a little point and point. And so that will help you to remember these anatomical characteristics too. Sometimes, you know, there are, looks like 3, sometimes there are just 2 little points. And then again, I noticed that there's these very light lines that are these other veins, and they tend to go to the ends of these lobes where the points are. And that there are a lot of other smaller ones too. So, you know, we could get really detailed if we want. And, you know, you don't have to draw everything. It's just as helpful sometimes if you just take notes. So don't feel like you have to draw everything. And so what do we have here? So this is our life-size leaf. And we didn't call this the acorn here, did we? We got a life-size leaf and a life-size acorn. And again, I might measure that for fun. That's 5 inches or about 12 centimeters. We're using centimeters instead of millimeters because that's a bigger unit, or about 5 inches. Okay, so yeah, that's life size. All right, and so what else could we add here from our little cheat sheet that I created, this nature journal page recipe that again you can download. So we're starting to add some pictures and some words, some measurements. Like I mentioned before, yeah, you could add some mathematical measurements. So if you went outside, you can measure a bunch of the leaves. Now, a lot of them might be a bit out of your reach, but you know, you could estimate that the leaves range in size from 5 to, let's see, what are these bigger ones? Gee, those are like 9 inches for the whole thing. 9 inches approximately. but it might be easier since you can't reach the leaves to count how many acorns are in each bundle. That might be fun to add a little bit of math in there, especially if you're a kid or working with kids and trying to do some math. So, we could make a little mathematical formula here. Let's put this here. Let me do it here since it's related here. So what are we going to look at? We're going to look at the number. I decided to look at the number of acorns in a bunch. It's not like they're grapes in a bunch, but you get what I mean. So I could pretty easily go like this. What we could do is on this column, I could say number of acorns. And on this column, I could see the number of times that we saw those groups. So if I were to go back outside, I might look up at the tree, might need some binoculars, but I could count. And statistically, it's good to collect a data set of at least 30, but we're not trying to be too particular here, and I'm just going to kind of pretend. So we always see at least one, and sometimes two, and the most I noticed was 3. So if I went out there and looked at each bunch and counted up to 30 total, I might make some little tick marks. So maybe I saw one of these, and then one of these, and then one of these, and I saw another one of these, another one of these. And then I could keep going, and eventually I would notice that some were a lot more frequent than others. So, kind of like this. 5, 10, 15, 20. Oh, we could keep acting like we are going to see some more. So let's keep observing our tree. Let's say we see one more of these, another one of these. We saw another one of these. And just keep going, looking at various groups of leaves. And 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, almost 30. So maybe we'd look one more time and we'd see another group of like 3. Now, this doesn't mean that maybe 3 is always the most common. 2 could be the most common, and one of the third one could have fallen off or been eaten by a squirrel or something. So these numbers are just approximate. But anyway, this is a fun way to add some numbers in addition to using inches and centimeters and millimeters to measure. You can add in numbers like abundance. Okay, so now what else could we do? Well, I wanted to, no, I don't have to do a second one really. I do just want to add some color a little bit later, and I can do just a swatch to show what color these are. I don't have to do another one. But now let's pretend that I went indoors and I want to learn more about oaks and acorns. That's part of the reason for doing nature journaling, is to learn about the world around you. And you can't learn all of it from observing, but I really like to start with the observing and then later on go on to looking at references. So I happen to have this beautiful book, Guide to Flowering Plant Families by Wendy Zomlifer. And she's not only a botanist, but also an illustrator. So she created all the beautiful illustrations in this book. So these is inspiring for both learning about biology and botany particularly, but also looking at drawings. Now her drawings were created perhaps in the field, but then later she spent a lot of time, I'm sure, in the studio making sure they were completely anatomically correct. And that's not what we're trying to do here, although you could go on to do that. But nature journaling is generally a little bit more casual. And so, what I learned, I could add here. And so, I might add some fun facts. And again, I could spend a lot of time with this text here, but that's not usually my style, at least not in the field. So we're going to just add some fun facts. And it helps to have some little kind of bullet points or squares or circles or stars to organize. So I learned that oaks trees are in the family Fagaceae, and all family names end in C-A-E-A. So that's family level, and I learned something very cool, is that there's over 430 plus species of oaks. Now, not all of them are in the Quercus genus that makes these cute little acorns, but a majority of them are. And I learned that these are global, mainly in the temperate zone, but also in more tropical latitudes up in the mountains. I've actually seen oak trees in Mexico, but it wasn't tropical lowlands. They were higher up in the Sierra Madre. And actually the highest diversity number of species is in Mexico, in the Sierra Madre Mountains, where it's pretty dry. There's mixed conifer and oak woodlands. So that's very cool. I was very lucky to see that. And that's one of the reasons I enjoy illustrating this species. And so here in North America and probably other parts of the world, the acorns were harvested. So the acorns, they were harvested by native peoples. And I actually took a class once at a national park to learn about that process, and it's quite laborious because the oaks have a lot of tannic acid in them. In fact, that acid is also used to tan hides to preserve them, animal hides to preserve them for like clothes. Acorns were harvested and through a laborious process ground and leached of their tannic acid and then ground into a meal and eaten, kind of like nowadays Native Americans use corn and grind that into a meal. So that's some really cool facts that I found out. Now, of course, you can look up some facts, but it also helps when you're in the field to kind of think about some other things you want to ask. You could ask some questions that you want to look up. So, I might, wonder, why the acorns grow in groups of 3. Now, not all questions can be answered, but it really helps to just think about some questions, some wondering about some things, being curious. Like I noticed that this cap or cupule on the acorn actually kind of looks like a French beret. And I used to have a red French beret when I was a kid, when I went to France once. And they even have this kind of a top on them that's not as long as the stem, but I think that they are, the style was to emulate an acorn. So that was fun. Okay. So then at this point, you could go over this in ink, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that now, but there's different pens you could use, and you could be really creative with some highlighters, and you could also add some color. And so, you could use colored pencils, and you could use watercolors, which I really love to use. So I might take a little bit of watercolor here, and I've got my water brush, which has water in it for the field, and my little thing that I put on my hand here. This was a great idea by my colleague, Jack Laws, who also teaches classes in nature journaling. And then, I might start drawing painting some of these. For instance, I might just paint this. And again, you can just be really, you don't have to be perfect. But I see this is sort of a warm brown. Actually, the stem is kind of a cooler brown. And if you don't have any colors while you're out in the field, you can make some notes about what color. So this is a cool brown, the stem, whereas the cupule is a little bit more of what we would call sort of a yellow ochre. And so you could just go like that. And again, we're not trying to do a botanical painting here. We're just trying to get some color notes for fun. And these are going to change color as they mature. And then the nut this time of year is this green color. And later on, they will turn darker. So I might start with a little tiny bit of this. See how that works? Yeah, that's close enough for government work, as we used to say in the Forest Service. And I'm painting pretty dry so that it won't wrinkle my paper, because these field books really can't have too much liquid on them. And I actually noticed that the stigma was a little bit darker, so I might want to just make that a little bit darker for fun. Okay, so again, you could do this to the whole page, you could do this to the leaves, and spend a lot more time on this. But basically, what we did, again, reminding you, is we were out in the field observing oak trees and acorns, and we're doing a nature journal page. We added a title and the metadata of the date and the location and the weather, and I added my little signature on here. And then I started observing the species and looking at it from different angles, adding some identifying features, adding some size measurements. I could also add a little picture of what the whole tree looked like, but I kind of ran out of room, but that's something else you could do. And then I drew a leaf and again added the measurements. And to add a little bit more rigor to this as a scientist, I could do a short study of the number of acorns in a bunch. And, if you were a kid or working with kids, you could always graph this data as well. But I was looking at how many times I saw a group of 1, 2, or 3 acorns in a bunch. Like here, there's 2 acorns. So here's my finished journal page. I've added some color using watercolor and colored pencils. I've also inked in some of the text. Now, of course, you can just start using ink in the first place, but in this case, I chose to use pencil first. So I hope you enjoyed watching this quick demonstration and got some ideas of the types of subjects to sketch and the kinds of elements you can add in terms of text and drawings and symbols and numerals. to make your journal pages more interesting and more complete. And remember, focus on what you learn from your observation of your organisms and not exactly on what ends up on the finished page. You see, this is pretty quick and dirty and not too precious, but I did enjoy the process, and I learned a lot about oaks and acorns while I was journaling them. So I hope you keep that in mind. Okay, so I hope you'll be inspired to go out and journal something on your own. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.